Humanity looks nothing like this, but you know what? I think these little furry friends understand humanity better than some humans do. Maybe it's because some of them struggle to get by every day like some of us do, while some others sit around all day sleeping and farting on the couch, again like some of us do. They approach us and try to comfort us when we are miserable because they may not know what is happening to us at the time, but they understand misery every bit as much as we do. They jump around excitedly and dance with us even when they have no clue about what made us so cheerful, but they understand joy every bit as much as we do. They know they shouldn't be eating that cake, but they are utterly gluttonous degenerates like we are, so they eat it all the same. When their human friend has a terminal disease, they can sense it every bit as much as we do. They know when our days are numbered, they prepare for the worst, and they miss us when we are gone, maybe even more than some of our human peers. We can't quite put a finger on what it means to be human, can we? Well, neither can cats, and yet they understand the concept perfectly well, and this understanding comes from a higher place, a place we humans like to call empathy. Welcome to Yoel Entertainment. My name is Alex, and as you know, it is my duty, my mission, my purpose in life to help you decide whether that game that you have been thumping for so long is indeed the right game for you or not. But Alex, you emotionally manipulative scoundrel, I hear you say. What's this bullshit about cats, those arrogant, treacherous, self-absorbed infernal denizens? Isn't this channel supposed to be about games? Well, my emotionally unstable and overly dramatic dear viewer, this video is about both. Because today we're going to be talking about Stray, the latest release in... what the fuck is this? Well, one of the games that Annapurna has released this year. Well, fuck me, this guy's published games faster than your average e-girl updates her OnlyFans account. Not that I would know. And the reason why I am bringing this title to your attention is because I like to take breaks between one 60-hour plus monster of a game and the next. And there are some games that are just perfect for this, because they are short, easy, and cheap. And I've often referred to these games as palate cleansers, blank walls to stare at between one masterpiece and the next. And well, Stray is short, about 7 or 8 hours long, easy, yes, fairly chillaxy for the most part, and...
Holy cow!
Right. Allow me to make a case for this game because a 7 to 8 hour game that goes for $30 probably needs it. If you have played any other game by this publisher, like Outer Wilds or What Remains of Edith Finch, you already know that these guys are a little bit like the Starbucks of gaming, in the sense that every marketing charlatan speaks of the Starbucks brand. They don't sell coffee, they sell experiences. Oh, just fuck off, marketing charlatan. And yeah, it's the same with Annapurna. They don't sell video games, they sell the experience. Their games are a one and done deal. There are no builds for you to experiment with, no strategies, no taking different decisions, although there is a little bit of that in this one. But no, that's not their deal. Their deal is stuff like a story of a girl who is revisiting her family's home that is not really a story of a girl who is revisiting her family's home, but a deep commentary on existential terror and the various mechanisms that we humans come up with to cope with it, and why this coping might actually prevent us from truly living. This commentary is delivered to us by means of a journey of magic realism in the tradition of Jorge Luis Borges and Thomas Mann, and it also resorts to intricate parables with legends like the one about the 7 sleepers of Ephesus to drive its points home. Or the story about a little alien that's trying to piece together the past of an ancient civilization, hoping to find answers that'll help him break an endless time loop. That's not really the story of the little alien, but a commentary on the fleeting nature of life, and a suggestion that, since our days are numbered, it's probably a good idea to find purpose in leaving the world in a better state than we found it for generations to come. This one in particular is about a cat who gets lost and tries to find his way back home. Though it's not really a story about a cat trying to find his way back home, is it? It's a commentary on humanity, or the loss of humanity rather. See, the game takes place for the most part in a broken city. A city that's both packed full and abandoned at the same time. Its buildings look like they were haphazardly put together, as though the people who did it didn't give a shit about anything beyond their immediate housing needs. Its common areas look like shit. Its communication and transportation technologies seem to be 20 or 30 years dated, telling by the tech you see later on in the game. This monstrous behemoth of a city is a monument to human decay. At some point during the game, your human AI friend says that humans were the first inhabitants of the city, but they eventually all died, and the city's only residents are now humanoid robots. And I think this is a brilliant metaphor of the process of dehumanization. The way in which people's homes pile up chaotically in this city, its narrow, dark, filthy corridors, the tiny homes that can barely fit a person, and the Eastern vibes that we get from the decoration, the scribblings that pass for language, the clothes that people wear, and the food people eat, it all amounts to one big, unequivocal allegory of the Kowloon Walled City. And if dehumanization is going to be a running theme in your story, the Kowloon Walled City is an excellent choice for a setting. This man, whose YouTube name is Gammo Suwong, had this to say about the City of Darkness. I was the Royal Hong Kong Police Inspector briefly in charge of the Walled City around 1986. This is a place I'll never forget. Acceptable public pathways went through people's living spaces, lounges, toilets, small windows, etc. Electricity was abstracted and often dangerous. The rats were the biggest I've ever seen. And is there any bigger symbol of abandonment and decay than rats running amok in a city? Rats happen in cities where they are allowed to happen, and Stray's not Kowloon Walled City has its own version of these rats. They are frightening robotic creatures known as Zergs. The main difference with standard rats is that these things are actively trying to kill you and everyone else in this game. The setting in this game is another character. It's a monster that leeches the joy and hope out of everyone. It was conceived and raised uncaringly by the people, and because of that, it inevitably ended up turning against them. This is your enemy in this game. It's the embodiment of lack of care and the total absence of empathy. It's the obstacle that stands in your way on your quest to find your way back home. But who are you in this game? You are a cat. But what kind of cat are you? Can you customize your cat? Now, as someone who is into RPGs, I'm inevitably going to have this question whenever I play any game. And that's why my first thought when I started to play this game was, dude, if I'm going to be a cat, I want to choose what type of cat I'm going to be. And you can't create a custom cat in Stray. But if the developers thought they were breaking my balls by not allowing me to customize my cat, well, joke's on them. Because this dude is 100% the cat I would have created if I had been given the opportunity. You should be warned though, this guy is aggressively adorable. Let's hear the roar. Attaboy. You can't give him a name either. But since no one calls your cat anything in this game, I decided to name mine Ninja. Don't get jealous, this is just for the video. Ninja's movements are fantastic, spot on. The jumps, the scratching, the miscalculations, the licking yourself, the staring, the jump scares, everything is brilliant. You even have a meow button, and it's not just for show, there are practical and even tactical uses for it. You can even fall asleep in some places and watch the camera zoom out. This zooming out even came in handy on one occasion because it allowed me to get a better grasp of the level design, and it gave me a better idea of how to climb up all the way to the top of that location. But I think Ninja here is missing a few key features and functions. He can't lick his own parts, for example. There are no situations that require him to meow like crazy until someone opens the door only for him to stay out. There are no quests that require him to pee on the bags and purses of people he doesn't like, etc. There should have also been different types of meows, like the entitled meow that sounds like, "Human, quit fooling around and bring me the croquette." Or the manipulative meow they let out when they want you to adopt them. That eventually evolves into the entitled meow, etc. As you can see, I was determined to take my role as a cat seriously in this game. And I was as much of a cattish asshole as the game allowed, which was quite a lot, I admit. I pushed paint buckets off the edge of walls and shelves, on top of people sometimes. I played with billiard balls, since I couldn't play with my own. I scratched random carpets and sofas. I meowed at people just to bust their balls. I pushed this ball into this trash can and got a weird sense of satisfaction from it. But is there a point to any of this cattish mischief? Not really. But you do have objectives in this game. There are places to go to, puzzles to solve, couches to scratch. And I think it is quite remarkable that you can get by some of the game's challenges by behaving like a cat, which means doing shit just to see what happens. Or at least that's how I got through 50% of the game. In this part, I meowed at this guy every time he threw a paint can to his friend until he fucked up and dropped one of the cans. This made a mess somewhere else in the city, and it allowed me to do something that was critical to my progress in the game. And I hadn't even planned it that way. Some other time I decided to steal this jacket because fuck it, why not? And it turned out to be necessary to progress further into the game. I know you have questions like, can you fart in your owner's face? No, you can't. You don't have one in this game. You are also probably wondering what the gameplay is like in Stray, because you can't have a game that's all about a cat being cute. Well, you can, but that's not all there is to Stray. So what's it about? Well, it is often said that one of the things that made Citizen Kane a timeless masterpiece was that it blended together many movie genres while not half-assing any of them. And I would say Stray does a little bit of that. For starters, there's exploration to be done in this game. A lot of exploration. Because this city is complicated as fuck. Ga Mo Siu Wong said this about Kowloon Walled City. We once saw an opium den through a crack in the wall, and it took us days to find a way into it. Well, that's how I felt with Stray most of the time. And I'm not complaining though, quite the contrary. This city is abso-fucking-lutely amazing. I don't think I've seen anything quite like this, ever. And I don't know how much you'll end up paying for Stray in the end, but however much that is, this little trip alone is worth the price of the admission. And there's more rides similar to this one. Just walking about the city and making your way through the obstacles with your cat-like abilities is an immersive experience that I can hardly put into words. And while most of the footage I've seen of this game shows your cat wandering about not Kowloon Walled City, there are many more locations in this game. There are underground waterways, what seems to be some sort of abandoned water processing facility on top of which an entire community's been built, and a few locations that look like they were pulled straight out of Dante's Inferno as depicted in the Divine Comedy, and some of those were the last thing I expected to find in this game. But walking about is not the only thing you do in Stray. There's puzzle solving, stealth sections, action sequences. I think Stray's gameplay mix is clever and its fun factor is off the charts. You don't have to be an expert on stealth games to get through the stealth bits. You don't have to be the genius who cracked the code puzzle in Underrail to solve the puzzles in this game. You don't have to be the guy who beat Dark Souls butt naked and using a ham sandwich as his primary weapon to get through the action bits in Stray. I did find the action sequences to be a little bit irritating, but that's because I failed miserably at all of them. I think there was one that I got right on my first try, and there's like 7 of them. But that may not be your case. Maybe you are good at pressing the right buttons at the right time under stress. But if you are like me, you probably should be warned about these passages. These action sequences demand from you more or less the same skills as a racing game does. The difference is that in racing games, you may actually still win if you make one mistake. That's not how it is in Stray. The game goes full Dark Souls meets Forza Horizon in these sequences. It gives you almost no time to figure out what you have to do, and the tiniest mistake may kill you. The good news is that the game autosaves very frequently and always right at the beginning of each of these challenges. Also, thankfully, most of these sequences aren't even too long, and only one requires you to watch the cinematic bit before you try again. Fuck this part in particular, by the way. In my defense, I'll say my controller gaming skills were a bit rusty. It had been like a year since the last time I touched a controller. I'm also not a fan that you have an inventory in this game, and that you have to inspect some items, give some items to people, use stuff, etc. I found that to be immersion breaking, and it took me a little while to forgive the game for introducing inventory mechanics. But it's nothing atrocious or overly complicated, it just feels a little off. Time to answer some insipid questions, I suppose, like which platforms is Stray available for? That would be PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Windows PC. But Alex, I see you are playing this game with a controller, and you are the type of guy who plays even Sekiro with a mouse and a keyboard. Can you play Stray with a mouse and a keyboard? Yes, you can. The game recommends that you use a controller, but it works just as well with a mouse and a keyboard. Is this game for kids? Yes. Unless you are the king of pussy parenting, I think it is. There are details about how and why humanity became extinct, and about how and why the city's current inhabitants are trapped inside this walled city that aren't exactly kid-friendly themes. And there are parts that creeped even a grown-ass man like myself out, but I am sure a 12-year-old will be able to understand what's going on without becoming traumatized, and I'm sure they will have a blast with the gameplay. It's a bit like Shrek. There's a little bit for everyone, and the adult stuff is rather seamless. Be warned though, the adult stuff isn't funny as it is in Shrek. Actually, I think Stray is meant to be for normies, hardcore gamers, and I would even say non-gamers alike.
I want a challenge. Life is hard enough. I want a cool interactive story.
Yeah, even this dumbass will get what she wants from this game. And the secret is that the game isn't really about the gameplay, because like Starbucks, Stray is all about the experience. And this experience is about Ninja's journey and the lesson in caring as one of the fundamental pillars of humanity. And the moral of the story is competently woven into the fabric of the gameplay, as it's always the case with Annapurna games. See what I did there? No? Okay. Ninja here needs to get back home, and he understands that he needs help. He needs help from a lot of people. But of course, people are going to help him only if he helps them first. And on a surface level, this sounds like every quest in every game that we have ever played. But see, cats don't see this collaboration as a quid pro quo deal. It's not like, alright human, I'ma do this for you, but you gotta keep your end of the bargain, you hear? That's not how it works with a cat. They hug you when you cry because they know you're a pussy and they want to comfort you. They rock the baby's cradle because they feel for the human cub. I highly doubt that this guy is thinking, let me rock the human cub to sleep so that the old human is more likely to fetch me a croquette from the kitchen. In short, they love us, and we love. Leave that alone right now, Ninja, or I'm gonna whoop your ass, you hear me? I'm sorry guys, he was playing with the matryoshkas. And that's what's beautiful about this game. Ninja's not the only one who doesn't want to be in not Kowloon Walled City. Most other people, robots in the game, make it clear that they don't like it there either. But everyone in this city seems to have been drained of hope. They even see the prospect of escaping the city like one cruel, bitter joke. I don't know how much of a hand Annapurna has in the development of the games it publishes. They either have a lot of creative input, or they cherry-pick independent, like-minded development teams who are into the whole complex philosophical takes woven into the fabric of the gameplay thing. Whatever the case may be, they are very extremely good at it. These games are a work of art. You know, complex emotions and ideas conveyed through simple and easy to understand stories. Like Starbucks, Annapurna sells soy latte experiences. No wait, that was not a technical difficulty. I meant to say that they sell soy lattes. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's who they are. That's their personality as a publisher. And to some extent, that's what makes them the high-minded ones of the lot amongst developers. High-minded, marked by elevated principles and feelings, also pretentious. That's why What Remains of Edith Finch is a masterpiece. That's why Outer Wilds is an incomparable experience that hits you like a train with its ending. These games are great examples of what happens when smart people play to their strengths and cater to their market. Like we've said before, Stray takes place in a setting that draws very heavy inspiration from the Kowloon Walled City, a city that is also known as Hong Kong's City of Darkness. There were crime syndicates operating inside Kowloon Walled City. There was murder, opium traffic, illegal dentistry, falsifications of all sorts. This is what the place looked like. An urban hell on earth. This place and the people who lived there are a good example of just how low we can come to as a species. Preying on each other on a bad day, not giving a shit about anyone on a good one. Letting rats run amok and simply, well, not caring. But Annapurna is never going to depict this type of misery in all its glory. That's not the Annapurna way of things. Instead of disgusting rats, they give us Zurgs, robotic versions that would be kind of cute if they weren't trying to kill us. Instead of people showing physical signs of the decay that they have brought upon themselves, they give us humanized robots. Yes, there's a lore and story consistent explanation for this, but make no mistake about it. Purposefully not giving us a cruder and more realistic human version of the characters involved played a big part in this creative decision, I'd bet. And I would have absolutely abhorred this milquetoast soy-infused depiction of a decaying species if it weren't for the fact that, well, they nailed it. Despite the fact that this is a watered-down representation of an ugly reality, they still managed to make it come across as a believable dystopia, a dystopia that people have brought upon themselves as a consequence of not giving a shit about each other or even themselves. The locations in which Stray takes place look creepy and abandoned. Not Kowloon Walled City looks and feels like a city that was raised by people who eventually died because they simply stopped giving a shit about each other. But some of these robots seem to carry on with their lives in ways that are so human that it warms the heart. They stand there as proof that even in the darkest places, there's good to be found and friends to be made. Actually, Ninja makes a friend down here. Its name is B12, and it's like a cute, non-evil version of Arnim Sola, the bad guy from Captain America, whose brain was replicated as a series of computers. Thankfully, B12 didn't need an entire facility to house his brain. This cute and conveniently small flying robot sufficed. This is also the cleverest self-insertion I've seen in any game. The game developer's name is Blue12, and I guess this is their way to present themselves as our friend and guide. And Ninja's relationship with B12 is one of the best things I've seen in ages in the writing department. You see, you don't even need a lot of dialogue to provide your characters with a solid character arc. B12 is presented as the last remaining vestige of humanity down in this hellhole. It is a being trapped in a Kafkian existence that has no possibility of redemption, but it still makes its best effort to escape this hellish reality, because what else can it do? And its best effort is to leave some breadcrumbs out there in the hopes that someone sees them, recognizes them as breadcrumbs, cares to follow them, and eventually ends up helping out. And as chance would have it, after who knows how many years, it's this curious little four-legged fellow who ends up making the miracle happen. This fortuitous encounter comes as a ray of hope for both B12 and Ninja. It becomes readily obvious to both of them, through animal intuition for the cat and human reasoning for the floating machine, that they need each other. And the beauty of Stray is that throughout the game, this need evolves into empathy, and this empathy eventually becomes purpose. They need each other at first because cooperation furthers mutual goals and all that, but throughout the game they are put in situations that force them to risk their lives to save the other, and that's how the journey gradually becomes less about escaping not Kowloon Walled City and more about the journey itself. And this journey is nothing but the lesson that caring for each other is how we survive as a species. The plot in Stray is actually quite dark and sinister, and there's a lot here to sink your teeth into. There's the grim story behind the extinction of the human species that has to do with a virus no less, and confinement measures issued by the authorities, but let's not get into that though. There's also the very grim situation of the city's robotic inhabitants who are forced to remain inside the city walls due to a virus that doesn't affect them by a robotic police force who are following a mandate from humans who no longer even exist. But the details of all of this are kept vague and obscure in the narration, and I think this is very much on purpose so that they don't take away from what the game truly wants to convey. And that's that in this reality that has drained everyone of hope and purpose, in this reality that has stripped everyone of their very humanity, the only ones who are going to make it out, the only ones who are going to see the light, are those who learn the value of caring, because that truly is the human thing to do. And if this little fella is capable of learning this lesson, maybe one day we will too. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Do consider, if you are new to the channel, that this video is a bit of an exception to what we do in ye olde entertainment, so maybe you want to check out some of the other exceptions that we have on the channel. You are probably looking at them right now on your screen. I'll still leave a few links to those in the description section down below. If you didn't like the video, well, still thank you for watching all the way up until now. If you are an old timer, thank you for sticking around all the way. And know that we will be back on track with some good old RPG category-based reviewing for your enjoyment. If you like what you are seeing in this channel, please consider subscribing and clicking that notification bell to avoid the usual YouTube shenanigans. Share the video, but most importantly, never stop caring for yourself and those around you, because that's how we make it out as a species. Bye everyone.